Hi, everybody. Welcome back to this month's mentor series. Today we have Janet Harder and Michaela Jelen or Jelen, depending on where you're at, joining us from JHMJ Consulting out of Canada. So we are pumped to have them here, and you guys are going to be floored with what you're learning about parent coaching today, among other things. So why don't we kick it off with a little introduction about you ladies and tell us what you've been doing, where you're at, and how you got into NDBIs.
Sure. Thanks for having us, Jamie. I'll jump in first. Hi, everyone. I'm Janet, and I'm a speech language pathologist and a board certified behavior analyst. And I have been in the field for a very long time. I got into NDBIs when I did my ESDM training, and I had started to specialize in working with little ones with autism, and I'm always game to learn. So started on that journey, ended up becoming an ESDM therapist and ESDM trainer. Then, I always feel that the more tools you have in your toolbox, the better. So I have taken, CERTS training and JASPER training and done as much learning as I can. And in particular, which I know Michaela is going to talk lots about, is parent coaching. And we have had quite a journey in our parent coaching training and experiences together. And was so excited when Michaela just completed her PhD on that topic. So, yeah.
A big achievement, and we have it recorded now to celebrate
Yeah.
all of your hard work, Michaela.
Exactly a week ago, I passed my oral exam. Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I've been, like Janet, I've been working in the field for a long time. I've, been supporting families and kids with autism, but also lots of other developmental needs. Since my teens, really, it started, a babysitting gig, and that kind of is what piqued my interest. And I completed an undergraduate degree in disability studies in 2001, and I've sort of had this opportunity through my career to flip between working and back to university, working and back to university. And I completed my master's degree in 2008, where I really got interested in NDBIs. Was not yet a branded term, but I was really interested in evidence-based early intervention. And I worked with a lot of families with kids who had autism at that time. And that's, that completion is what guided me to the ESDM. So I completed my therapist certification quite a long time ago, and then knew I wanted to be a trainer afterwards. I've had lots of jobs. So I've worked as a behavior consultant, and I've also spent about 10 years working with our government here in British Columbia, where I coordinated an outreach program, where I developed information sessions for families living in rural and remote communities across the province. So I also was a behavior consultant for the government. So I really got to see firsthand sort of the disparity in services and what went on in these communities that really didn't have a team of SLPs to choose from. And some of them didn't even have one SLP, and and sort of these needs that families of kids with autism or other developmental considerations had to work with. And so that really has fueled my interest as well. And like Janet, as Janet talked about, her and I completed our PESDM training together. That's actually how we met number of years ago now. And because of that experience and some relationships we forged, we were trainers in this province-wide. So in the province of British Columbia, which is a pretty big province in Canada, we were trainers for this research project called the Parent and Child Early Coaching Project. And so we got to train early interventionists across all of BC in both community-based ESDM and then in a community-based version of coaching, parent coaching. So it wasn't the full PESDM with regards to fidelity criteria and these kinds of things, but it was pretty intensive. And so we had a lot of experiences there, and that really fueled my deep, deep interest in going back to school as an old doctoral student and learning more about this thing called parent coaching, which really fueled that interest in supporting families better across all environments and locations, and really working with parents together. And so through that work, we've developed what we are now calling the relationship and strength-based coaching approach, or RSB. And our website is not even updated to reflect this, but this is a program that I really refined through my doctoral work, and with the help of Janet, and we've had lots of experiences trying different things out. And then I really piloted the full meal deal for my dissertation. And so it was a huge, colossal project. I made a program, and then I tested the program, and then I analyzed the program. My joke,
Evidence-based, yes.
Yes, my joke all through my program was, why didn't I just do a survey? But no.
Survey to it, right?
It was a long project, but it really has just contributed to the passion that we have. And Janet and I can't speak for you here, Janet, we love working together. We complement each other well, and we're just so excited to keep spreading the word on evidence-based practice and parent coaching.
Families. Yeah, that's great. I didn't know you guys met at a PESDM, parent ESDM concert at the training.
It was weird because we were both from Vancouver Island. It was very strange in Sacramento, California.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And fast friendship moving forward. Wonderful collaborative relationship.
Yeah.
So you tested various, I guess, what we call it, like different ingredients of different parent coaching programs to kind of test out what worked, what doesn't work, what's good, what's not so good. When you came up with yours, did you kind of tease out some of those variables?
Yeah,
I think, well, and I was thinking, Michaela and I, well, reflection, which we all get lots of practice on in our practice, but really reflecting on the challenges that we found through our experiences, just, being in private practice. Some of the challenges I found was, even though I had ESDM training, translating that to like pure speech focused sessions with families was something I really struggled with. Or in our PACE, trying to figure out, well, it looked like somebody was sort of doing the right things, there was something missing. And sort of trying to define that missing component. I think Michaela, in her PhD, that was a big focus of sort of what that was, and it wasn't well defined. And being able to do training and parent coaching where you can have the person who has their content and expertise and use that. It's more about that process and those critical elements that aren't well defined, as Michaela can talk to in the literature, but also this ingredient that we found was missing. And Michaela really, I so loved being able to live vicariously through her in a PhD, because I got all the good stuff while she got to do all that incredible hard work of finding all those articles and research. So yeah.
Yeah. Like it wasn't necessarily testing components, but like the literature on coaching has been around for a long time. And there's this article that was published over 10 years ago now, in 2012, where it's this quote I always love to pull on any presentation that I do on parent coaching, but talking about the uncertainty that early intervention providers have about what actually coaching is. And so when they don't know what they know, like, yeah, it's a good idea. And of course we have to work with parents. And of course we all understand and have learned about family-centered practice in our training. But what actually is it? And what are the things we actually have to do? And so this 2012 paper began sort of operationally defining these coaching practices. And those have been studied in different ways over the years. And you know what the consensus at this point is they're all really complicated. Like, so this idea of reflection, yeah, you just reflect. It's like, well, but how? And how do you actually support parents to reflect? And what does that look like? And what does that mean? So like, there's someone who did a whole PhD on just reflection in parent coaching, which is really just one part of it. And so it was kind of, I pulled from a lot of different resources, including these programs like PESDM that utilizes coaching practices to support parents in what I would brand as a parent mediated form of that type of early intervention, right? So ESDM has one, JASPER has one, lots of different programs have them, but the content is part and parcel of this package that you're learning when you go to these programs. Whereas what we were trying to do, and I was trying to do, is just pull out, but what's the actual coaching part? Like just the coaching part. And so all of those programs, the thing that they all have in common is they all heavily acknowledge family-centered practice, right? So it's about, you're the help giver and the parent is the help seeker, and you're working together and you're collaborating. And the idea is that parents set the goals, although I would argue that a lot of times in these programs, we're still kind of telling the parents what the goals are, even though we're listening to them. We're saying, okay, this is what you should work on. And so we wanted to take all of that out and just like, actually, so what do you need help with, mom and dad? And then you sort of have to make this decision. Can I help you with that? And that's actually really hard to do because, you know, Janet's an SLP. I am not an SLP. But SLPs are in my orbit. They have been in my orbit for a really long time. So I have like a really good handle on ways to support communication and language development in kids. But the nuances of, you know, Janet's deep content expertise in speech, you know, motor patterns, all of those kinds of things, that is not me. And so if that's what a parent needs help with, I might not be the right person to help with that. So that's a piece of it too. And then the last piece I would say that we, you know, that Jen was talking about how I read and read and read and read and read. And it came from our experience in supporting others to learn coaching. There was always sort of this percentage of individuals who it's like, well, they understand adult learning principles, because that's the other thing that's really consistent around coaching approaches, right? Everybody acknowledges adult learning principles. We need to meet parents where they're at. Everybody acknowledges family-centered practice. But there was this subset of trainees that it was like, what is this? Like, they're doing all the things, they're asking the questions, but they're struggling. And it was around relationship. And there's kind of this broad acknowledgement out there that, yeah, you want to be collaborative and reflective and work well with the parents, but there's not a lot written about how do you do that? Like, how do you actually forge a relationship? And so that's kind of where I landed on Carl Rogers' work from, you know, person-centered therapy and that therapeutic relationship, and really pulling at how do you forge a therapeutic relationship and kind of weaving it into all of these other things. So that's where we got the name relationship and strength-based approach. So really drawing on parent strengths, building the relationship, and then making sure that we're getting at the specific goals parents want to work on. Even though you might think, really need to work on this thing. Trust me, I know this kid. I know your kid. If the parents don't care about that at the end of the day, are they really going to do it? I don't know.
So it sounds like you comb through all of the ingredients and you have found the secret sauce to make it work.
That's bold. I'm a recent doctoral student. So I don't know that I would be that bold, but we're certainly trying to contribute to the secret sauce and trying to pull apart what the ingredients are. Yeah.
And then the method that you guys have that you spent so much time working on, you said it could be mapped onto if you were doing JASPER or ESDM or other CERTS, whatever. You could take this, can I call it a framework? Would that be
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
model? And you can use it in partnership or collaboration with that kind of approach. And just because it's really about the relationship between the coach and the parent that you are formulating or kind of cultivating with the RSB approach, relationship strength based. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. I mean, the hard part is though, even like, again, so you know, you as a clinician have all these skills and you're trained in JASPER, you're trained in ESDM, you're trained in CERTS, you're trained in all the models. But really one of the key components, which is linked to both adult learning principles, actually all three, and therapeutic relationship and family-centered practice, is listening to parents' goals. And so really, and having this in-depth conversation when parents say, you know, oh, well, bedtime is really hard. If, you know, if you could help me with bedtime, my life would be better. And so what does that mean? So you need to come up with an understanding of the specific issues that the parent is having from your area of expertise, right? So you ask questions, you listen, ask questions again, refine. So, and then you kind of come at, all right, so if I could help you with, you know, developing a bedtime routine for simplicity's sake, I think that's things most of us can appreciate. Would that help? And then the parent might say no. They might say, no, 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 I've tried a bedtime routine. So it's like, okay, I don't understand the issue. So it's my job to understand what your issue is. And then you're deciding if you're going to pull at CERTS, if you're going to pull at a different NDBI, if you're going to pull, and then what is it you're going to teach the parent? But you need to really be in that world and understand where they are at before coming to that decision about, I'm just going to teach you this.
Yeah.
And I think that relationship piece, like as someone in private practice, I have parents come to me and they've seen other professionals and they did the head nod and smiles and left, but they really did not find it helpful, but they also didn't share that with them. And I think that that's what can often happen if we don't establish this relationship, and how we establish that again is so important. We actually don't know what parents are really thinking. And if we don't, we can't help them. So we can't get there unless we have that relationship piece and authentic, not, you know, oh, I get along with parents. And I would have to say that's what I had. I'm like, oh, parents like me. I get along with families. Oh, aren't I great? And I realized, no, I'm not. I'm just very polite and smiley, but, you know, I'm not being as effective as I can be. And I think, you know, for me in private practice, we have so many families who don't have a lot of money. And I want to be as efficient and as effective as I can with those limited resources. And for me, I feel that this, you know, using this approach, no matter what the issue is that they come to me for, is efficient. It's efficient and cost effective.
I love
And for
it.
me, that's critical.
Those are my favorite things, efficient and effective to talk
And you
about.
know, part of it, I think, those of us in this world, and probably everybody who would watch this, we are in this field because we want to help, all of us. I feel comfortable saying that is something we all have in common. This isn't a money-making field, let's be honest. And so in that desire for efficiency, we are often, and the cost effective and the cost piece, we often don't have that much time with parents. We're running against the clock. I only have an hour. This parent only has the amount of money to purchase me for this amount of time. And so we want to be as helpful as we can and give them all the things. But I think what sometimes happens is we overwhelm families, and in trying to be the most helpful that we can,
It's just
we throw all this information at them without considering, like, where are they in their zone of proximal development? Where are they in their learning? So if we're talking about like high level skills and they don't even understand this base foundational information, none of this really good stuff we're throwing at them is gonna go anywhere.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate, Janet, what you said about kind of supporting parents and listening to them. And I've been a clinician a lot longer than I have been a parent. And I've shared with the membership, Liam has autism. And, we went through the early intervention program, and they'd show up to the house with their bag of goodies and maybe chat with us. And sometimes they'd leave, and I would look at my husband and say, we're not doing any of that. They don't know who I am. They don't know my background. I'm just Liam's mommy. I'm just here to learn and listen. And other times it was like, okay, you can work on this. But there really wasn't any, it didn't seem intentional or thoughtful that that's something we might have wanted to work on. It was a, how are you doing? Kind of a check-in, but that didn't translate to the action, if there even was an action plan, which there wasn't. For me to kind of formulate that, I felt like we had some support, somebody coming in, but when you really peeled that back, it wasn't the kind of support that we really needed at that moment. And it was very friendly and very fun, and but it just didn't have that relationship essence. So I really appreciate what you've worked so hard to do. Because I feel like from the clinical perspective, yeah, that's definitely something that could be improved upon. And as a parent, from my own experience, that's definitely something that I didn't feel like I had doing this. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and like, so often we leave families' homes or they leave the clinic, and the first thing they say is, I need to buy that toy, because they watched the clinician do something and they think, oh, it must be because I don't have a ball and hammer game, so I got to get a ball and hammer game, because then
And
he'll
that doesn't work.
or then he'll communicate, or he'll point to requests, or whatever you're working on. But as we all know, no, it's the strategy, and it just speaks to, we need to do better understanding where parents are to be able to help them in the ways that they want help
Yeah, at that moment in time,
at
which
that moment in time.
probably going to morph and evolve. Or sometimes having those conversations with parents, I hear you, that's here, and here's what we're going to do to work to get there, and letting them know, I honor what you want. I respect that we're not going to get there now, but here's what we can do to lay out that foundation, like you talked about. So that way parents can feel heard, but we're not making empty promises about something. Yeah, we'll do that. No, that might not be that journey for every child to get somewhere to vocal speech, right? So I think having that laid out with a really good, intentional, clear relationship is a great trust, right? The rapport that we can have with families and meeting them. I love, we talk about meeting kids where they are. I love that, talking about meeting parents where they are and their diagnostic journey for their child. This comes with a lot of emotions and a lot of thoughts and a lot of reframing, not what you just thought for your child, but yourself and your family and within your culture. So it's a lot, I think, for families. I feel very fortunate to know about autism and have been doing this for almost 30 years. It didn't make that process any less confusing and overwhelming, for sure.
Isn't that the truth? I don't have a child with autism, but I have a child who was premature and very, very medically complicated. And so I had a lot of early intervention as well. And I was a trainer by this point, and I had been, working in early intervention literally my entire career. And so I deeply understood what the system that I was all of a sudden in as a parent was. And I also had an older child who had a lot of challenging behaviors, and she was very, very intense. She was 3 at the time. She was also obsessed with babies. And so she thought this little 4-pound preemie that I had brought home was her personal baby doll, which was stressful in and of itself. The baby ended up getting pyloric stenosis, which means she didn't eat. Nothing went into her stomach it was about 3 weeks until it was diagnosed. So I actually didn't sleep for more than 20 minutes if it, you know, as it progressed. So like it was a hard time, and these early interventionists would come to my house, and I totally logically got what it was they were telling me to do, and I did not have the capacity to do it, full stop. Like, and the clinician in me was like, this is like simple stuff. Like, this is not complicated things they are asking me to do. I had zero capacity. I was a complete basket case. Life was very, very, very difficult. And, you know, I had this one who just would come and sit and talk to me, and I appreciated her more than anyone. As wonderful as the rest of them were, it was a total waste of time, quite frankly, because I just didn't have the capacity.
Yeah. And then when she talked to you, did she also listen? Like,
Yeah,
right?
she
Like
just
that,
listened.
it's
She let
about
me cry, and she let me be stressed, and she played with my 3-year-old, so she gave her attention,
which
you
is,
know, like,
yeah. Yeah, that's brilliant. So will you guys do some coaching for professionals who want to, when you're done packaging up this really exciting new framework or model, will you be able to support professionals who want to adapt that and integrate it within their practice to support parents?
yes, indeed. Yeah, yeah, so we've got it listed on our website now. Like I said, we need to sort of do the rebranding piece. But yes, based on the results from my dissertation, we're going to adapt it a little bit based on, I got really good feedback from the wonderful professionals that I got to work with in my training. So we're going to adapt it and adjust it. And then absolutely, we want it to be a tool that people can add to their toolbox to help families that they support. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And then is this something, I know you ladies travel a lot to South America, down in Brazil, which I live vicariously through you when I see your photos because they just look amazing. Is this something that would be easy to adopt to different cultures to help support families? I'm
was gonna
thinking,
say they've asked us to do it already.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have to dig with Michaela reflecting on, and we have to think about how to do it in a way that will work. Translation is always, I mean, it's working with our translation and other things, but we have to be very thoughtful about how to do it with a translator.
Yeah, yeah, that is certainly our goal.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. But as Janet said, yeah, we want to make sure if we're going to offer this with cultures that require translation, as we don't speak in Brazil, we don't speak Portuguese. We want to make sure that there's things that aren't lost in translation, and the relationship piece is so nuanced, right? The way we listen for verbal and nonverbal words and sounds and facial expressions is very culturally informed. And so we want to make sure that we are able to translate those very subtle components in a way that is meaningful to those who are learning about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there could be lots of extensions on this for different cultures. And I think that is, just like you're saying, a really imperative or critical part is in this culture, this is how nonverbal behaviors and relationships are kind of facilitated. And in this culture, it could look vastly different, but the formula is the same, but how we support them to individualize it or accommodate those different cultural norms is very important, especially when we're talking about interpersonal or soft skills. So that's really interesting to think about those applications as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exciting. We're very passionate about it. We're really excited to.
Yeah. And then did you guys work on the PACE study, the PACE project, and if you could give me the link for that study, I'd love to link it for the members to go read about. I think I came across it and then I sent it to you. Oh my God, your names are in here. I had no idea you worked on the PACE.
Yes. Yes. So we, along with one other colleague, we were 2 of the 3 trainers. Yeah. And so we were not part of the research team. We were on the training team. So yeah, we were heavily involved. It was the bane of our existence for a good 2.5 years. Hey, Janet? Yeah. So we trained individuals in first the community-based ESDM. So there were some modifications that we did. It was the CESDM. ESDM is so confusing because you have PESDM, GESDM, straight up ESDM, CESDM. So it was
What's next?
CESDM, community-based ESDM. So we trained early intervention professionals. So there was some speech paths, there was some OTs, there was lots of early, just general sort of early in Canada. I don't even know if it's all of Canada, but just generalists in early child development. Often they have a diploma or sometimes an undergraduate degree. So we trained, there was 40 interventionists across the province. So we trained them in ESDM. Then they had very short amount of time to practice. They had 12 weeks to learn as best they could. And then we trained them in coaching, utilizing all the ESDM strategies. So again, it wasn't this general coaching as we've sort of been talking about. It was very focused on ESDM, but it was certainly using the coaching practices, right? So reflective practice, giving that targeted feedback, all of those kinds of things. And then they went off and worked with families for the study. So there was multiple components to it. There was this training component. So that's, we can send you all the articles, but that's the one that we were involved in the training.
Okay.
But then there's also a randomized control trial where there was families that enrolled, so whose kids were showing red flags for autism. They weren't yet diagnosed. And so the coaches that we had trained then worked with the families. And so we became their, guiders, mentors, supervisors, however you want to call it. But we were the ones who sort of supported them through that. So if they had stuff that was happening, we were always available to talk through things, and they had videos and they sent us videos of themselves.
Or try and solve their tech problems. And
Yeah. So we were there holding hands all the way through. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. Yeah, please send some of those. I think the RCT and the training study would be great. And then I can see if I don't know if they're open access, or we can track it down via ResearchGate for the members to reach out to them and kind of see if they'll share that free or open access, I guess, would be if it's open access, I'll link it in the article in the membership. If it's not,
it is open access.
Okay, let me know. Okay.
Yeah.
Because then I go look at the article. If not, I always send people out to kind of track down the main author to find it.
Yeah, there's also actually, I believe it's on our website. I'll look. There's a link to a poster that was done at INSAR, that talking about some of the community-based components of what was done in this colossal project. There's so many pieces to it, right? There's also a study published on the cost effectiveness of this. Wendy Unger is the lead author on that one. So that's another one as well that we sort of had less to do with other than documenting our hours and our time. But there's a lot of pieces to this very, very big project. It was a huge undertaking. Yeah.
So that's done. Dissertation is done. So big projects off the radar, breath of fresh air. What advice would you give professionals that are in the membership that are looking for different ways to maybe implement NDBIs or support or extend or enhance their parent coaching? Because we've been talking about that. Resources.
You want to go first?
Oh, I mean, I can only speak. I can only speak for myself and my experiences. And I think, if I could help younger professionals or other people, I kind of had been in the field for quite a while, supporting families for quite a while. And I think finding really good quality courses, but the thing that will make the behavior change, as we all know, is that you have to do it and get feedback. And I think it has changed my practice. I and I shouldn't be, because we're always growing, but I go, oh man, what I know now, I wish I had known then, because it's so different. My sessions and relationships with parents are so different. And I was telling Michaela earlier today, I was, doing a speech session, and I was sitting back. The parent was doing it. And I said to her, oh, I wish I had that on video. I said, your prompt fading was spectacular. And it was the parent doing it. And for me, I feel really emotional when I see a parent supporting her child in a way that I think before I only thought, oh, I could do that. And I have realized, our parents are amazing. And when it's a good fit for that family, it's amazing what if we support the right way, what they can do. And that jump for me, it took me time, even though I'd had, some support. I couldn't figure out, because I don't know if I honestly believed that I could get parents there, or that parents could do that. And for me, that's I was just amazed when I sat back in this parent, because and it's not the only parent. And so my bucket gets filled when I see that. And that's so, take good quality, training, but you have to have mentors and coaches, because your behavior won't change. As a professional, my behavior did not change until I could really reflect and get that feedback myself. And having colleagues like Michaela. You really have to surround yourself with colleagues who you can be really open and honest with, because we're all afraid to look, stupid in front of our colleagues, and we have to find the people that we can be brave with.
And be vulnerable and get that to improve us and help us kind of keep moving that needle forwards towards progress, right? I appreciate that. And for empowering parents, that's such a, I love that your bucket is full. As a parent who, I think all of us want nothing more than the best for our child, and no one is more motivated than a parent to help that child. So giving them the tools to be able to make that change in their own behavior, which is going to be there through that child's waking moments, is so powerful and so reinforcing. So that is so exciting. Impart that wisdom on to others to kind of help them understand the importance of meeting parents where they are, and self-reflection, and also reflecting back on ourselves, of having that feedback. And it's a journey, right? It's a reflective process. And we've been doing this a long time, and I am of the same like mind. So I love hanging out and chatting with you ladies. There's always something new to learn, or something different or better. And when we can take that and bring that into our own practice, it just impacts so many more families and professionals. But I think we do that because we reflect and we seek out more, and then we reflect and we refine, and then we put it into practice. So what about you, Michaela? What would you pass on for words?
Yeah, I would add to that. And I would say, I mean, I agree with all of it. And really, when I think about young me, like Janet, it's like, oh my goodness. I think one of the things is believe parents. Sometimes, I had so many kids on my caseload when I was first a behavior consultant. I wasn't a parent at the time, which was just where I was at. And I remember so many examples of parents would tell me something that their child did or didn't do, and I totally didn't believe them, because I didn't see the child do that or not do it with me. And I can't believe I didn't believe them, 'cause, like, I am a parent of a kid who is literally two different people when there's new people, especially when she was young. She came across as completely silent, didn't talk, this perfectly behaved person when we had visitors. And then when it was just us, I was at my wit's end, like challenging behaviors I experienced with her, and I was a behavior consultant. Like
hard, right? When your kid does it, you're like, oh my God.
Believe parents. If they tell you something is hard, listen to them. I would say that's the other. And the other thing I would say is, if you're a new professional, give yourself time. You
Mhm.
don't know everything. We don't know everything, and we've been doing this for a long time. As Jamie said, we keep learning, and give yourself time and be nice to yourself.
Yourself
Right?
grace.
It's okay that you don't know everything. And sort of leaning in on that therapeutic relationship piece, one of the components is honesty, is giving parents space to be vulnerable and genuine, but you also need to be vulnerable and genuine. So if you actually don't know the answer to something, just say it. Just say, yeah, that I don't know the answer to that. Like, that sounds really hard, but I can go look it up. I can go connect with a colleague. Like Janet said, if you have colleagues in your orbit, I can try and find out the answer, and I'm going to try and help you. But if you don't know, it's okay. You're allowed to not know the answer. Give yourself time to practice and just be in the space that you're in, and just keep trying to learn. Keep trying to learn, because the learning never stops. I tell you, I'm a very PhD student. It never stops.
I know, I love that quote. Like, when you know better, when you know more, you do better, or same,
Yeah.
getting that out there and having that. I will send you guys an email, because I want to link the website, and I want to link the new RSB model framework, whatever.
Not on the website yet, but it will be
And it gets
soon.
up there, yes. And the resource articles for people to learn more and kind of reach out to you ladies and find more information. And this is such new, exciting, hot off the press, literally, information that you're sharing with us. So I feel very grateful that you have been so kind to meet with us today. And I know everyone is going to love this topic. So hopefully you'll get some great emails reaching out for more. And I'm curious about when the model, I'm gonna call it a model for whatever comes out, that you guys will be able to do some workshops on it or some webinars to help professionals put that into practice. I know I will be right there, #1 on the list to sign up for it. So thank you
Thanks for
all
having
for
us.
sharing
Yeah,
that.
thank you so much, Jamie.
You're
We're
very
so
welcome. Thank you, ladies.